Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Tagalog Verbs. Kumusta po kayo? Welcome back to this channel. Let us continue our journey in learning a beautiful language, Tagalog, the language of the Philippines. This video is the beginning of a new chapter as we start discussing a huge topic, and that is Tagalog verbs or pandiwa. Before we begin, please make sure that you are subscribed by clicking on the subscribe button and the bell notification button so you will be updated of new contents coming out regularly. On to our topic for today. Tagalog verbs are quite interesting. They are built differently compared to English, which has regular verbs, irregular verbs, and other types like transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, and so on. Tagalog verbs are not subject dependent, unlike English. For example, the English verb to eat changes depending on the subject, like I eat, he eats, she eats. Or a Romance language like Spanish that is heavily dependent on the subject, like the verb comer, the Spanish verb for to eat, where you have como, comes, come, comemos, comeis, comen. Something I and my classmate had to memorize back in college along with a bunch of other Spanish verbs. So, Tagalog verbs are not subject dependent, and they are also not pronoun dependent. Tagalog verbs are in a way similar to Japanese, where you have one conjugated form regardless of the subject or the pronoun, like the verb taberu or to eat in Japanese. You say, watashi wa tabimasu, anata wa tabimasu, watashi tachi wa tabimasu, and so on. And as you can see from those examples, the change in the verb occur at the end of the verb. Later, you will find out that the changes in Tagalog verbs happen in different places within the base word. What you will find in Tagalog verbs is that there seems to be no irregular verbs. You will find irregular verbs in English, especially in the past tense, with verbs that are not conjugated with the suffix ed. Regular verbs in English are, well, regular and consistent, like walk, walked, talk, talked, bake, baked, scold, scolded, mold, molded. The nightmare in learning English begins with irregular verbs, like seek, sought, buy, bought, lose, lost, say, said, hide, hid. You get the idea. Tagalog verbs are, by and large, consistent but can be a bit confusing. But it can be overcome. And that's what this video is all about, to help unravel the mystery of Tagalog verbs. It would also help to remember that because Tagalog verbs are built differently, a lot of things can be new to you. So, please keep an open mind. So, tara, kilalanin natin ang pandiwa. Through this huge chapter on Tagalog verbs, I will be using this chart. This chart will show the relationship of one verb with a whole bunch of other related verbs, which will make our discussion on Tagalog verbs make sense to you. Please do not be daunted by this. We will unravel this slowly, or as we say in Tagalog, dahan-dahan. There are 4 things we need to remember with Tagalog verbs and how they work. First, everything starts with the root word, or salitang ugat. In some other language, they are called base words. I feel though that root word is the more appropriate term because it is from a root word, new words like verbs grow from. The root word is not yet the verb, although sometimes they can function like a verb, which is a topic for another day. The second thing you need to remember is that in most cases, you need to combine the root word with another set of words to create a verb. And those set of words are affixes, something that we talked about in the last video. If you have missed that, do check it out. The link is in the description box down below. As we have learned in the last video, affixes can be a prefix, a word inserted before the root word, a suffix, a word inserted at the end of the root word, or an infix, a word inserted inside the root word. It is with this combination of root words and affixes that Tagalog verbs are classified. The main verb groups are known by their affixes, like the verbs, the mag verbs, the ma verbs, the mang verbs, the in verbs, the e verbs, an verbs, and others. With the root word and its combination of affixes, the infinite form is created, and so too are the imperative forms. The third thing I want you to remember is that Tagalog verbs are conjugated according to what are called aspects and not tenses. I know I used the term tenses in a previous video. Remember this one? Kinakausap kita. I am talking to you. Kinausap kita. I talk to you. Kakausapin kita. I will talk to you. I use tenses then because to use aspects will require a lot of explaining, which will overshadow the main topic of that video. But anyway, what are aspects and how are they different from tenses? The difference is in the perspective. While tenses point to the timeline when an action is playing out, whether in the past, what is happening at the present, or will happen in the future, aspects point out to what's going on with the verb or the progressiveness of the action, like whether the action has happened or whether the action is happening or whether the action will happen. With tenses, the focus is when an action happened. With aspects, the focus is on what's going on with the action. Let me cite this sentence as an example. It contains the conjugated verb iniisip, thinking, from the verb isipin, to think, which is derived from the root word isip, think or thought. The sentence is iniisip kita. I am thinking of you. In the English version, it is obvious that it's in the present progressive tense. But the same Tagalog verb conjugated the same way can be used this way. Iniisip kita kagabi. I was thinking of you last night. The English version is in the past progressive tense. But in the Tagalog sentence, although the action iniisip happened in the past, the aspect of the verb iniisip is in the progressive state. The linking verb was in English is an excellent device that signals the action thinking took place in the past. Hence, it is in the past progressive tense, was thinking. But that is not the case in Tagalog. There is no device that will convert the verb into the past. Though the action was in the past or in the completed state, the verb is in the progressive state. I hope that makes sense. So, Tagalog verbs are mapped out from completed aspect, naganap, progressive aspect, or nagaganap, contemplative aspect, or magaganap, and katatapos or recently completed, which is similar to past perfect tense in English. The fourth and last thing I want you to remember is that, well, this is the strangest characteristic of Tagalog verbs, is that Tagalog verbs behave according to what is called focus system, which other linguists call voice system or trigger system. But in this channel, I am using the term focus system. What this means is that verbs are hardwired to include its relationship with who is talking, who the action is for, what is the action for, etc. Let me illustrate this with this example. The English verb to read can be used in these phrases: is reading, is being read, can be read, is being read to, is being asked to read, etc. The same phrases in Tagalog are said by these conjugated verbs. Nagbabasa, binabasa, mababasa, binabasahan, ipinababasa. What sorcery is this, you may ask? A whole phrase in English can be said with a single verb in Tagalog? Yes, strange but true. This focus system is one of the central features of Tagalog verbs and is also common with other Philippine languages and some other languages in Borneo, Sulawesi, and Madagascar. In summary, these are the four things I want you to remember. Verbs start with root words. Verbs are formed by combining a root word with affixes. Verbs are conjugated according to aspects and not tenses. Verbs behave according to the focus system. Well, I don't really expect you to remember all of these, but they will be part of our methods to help you learn Tagalog verbs. So eventually you will remember them. To make our learnings manageable in this chapter, I will narrow down our discussion to these parts. This will be extensive enough for us to cover more common verbs and their uses. We will go through the rest in future chapters. If you are doing some formal or online Tagalog learning, chances are your teacher is most likely covering verbs in sequence according to their types, like the verbs, the mag verbs, the ma verbs, and so on. I am not going to do that. My approach will be to start with the root word and work our way down the verb types. In that way, you will be able to easily grasp the essence of each verb. And in every video, I will tackle verbs in pairs of actor-focused verbs and object-focused verbs for you to see their relationship. Believe me, they are related. That's about it. I will see you soon. If you think this video has been helpful, please click on the like button. That will help the YouTube algorithm recommend this channel to more people. Maraming salamat po at hanggang sa susunod.